You're watching a review simulator.
A review simulator.
We just got out of Sully, the new Clint Eastwood movie.
And now all the old folks are going back to the nursing home.
It was very crowded in there, and they put it in the tiny theater too. We were like, oh shit! I hope we're not gonna be stuck in the front for this. In one of the bigger auditoriums, it would have been just fine, but they stuck it in the smaller one for some reason. Like it's the only movie that was getting pre-screened tonight. Stuff like The Wildlife and When the Bow Breaks, I gotta check out tomorrow. So actually, it's a pretty quick night for me. This movie was only like 90 minutes.
And what would you say, was the average age probably around 50? I'd say the average age in that theater was probably 50.
It's probably the same audience that was in American Sniper, maybe. Or a lot of Clint Eastwood movies I've seen. What about,
I feel like American Sniper probably had a wider age gap.
My screening. I mean, eventually, you don't make that much money at the box office and just be made up of 60-year-olds in the audience. What you had more of an audience, and I'm trying to think of movies I've been to recently where the audience was predominantly old, and Hillary's America comes to mind.
Yes, that one was, we were the youngest in that theater by probably about 30 years.
This, I don't even know where to... It's a movie that, okay, everyone knows...
You know what this is? This is Captain Phillips.
But Captain Phillips, seemed like there was a bit more to it than this film. Yeah,
there's more of a story to be told with Captain Phillips, but... Tom Hanks is playing a similar role on this one. Mm-hmm. He's the real life guy is a more likable character than the real Captain. Like Sully, that's what I was telling him when we got out, was at least Eastwood picked a decent human being this time around, as opposed to the sociopath. Don't get a lot of shit for that. From American Sniper.
How dare you say that about the Jersey Boys, man? Fucking 4 seasons put out great music. I
totally forgot about it. I feel sorry, Frankie, baby.
If Frankie Valli punched you when he got off of a plane, Ragdoll's still a great song.
Okay, Jersey Boys notwithstanding. A weak film, but at least it had decent characters. Sorry, I didn't feel like I really learned anything new leaving this film. This is a story that we all know. We all remember. What year did this happen? 2009. January 2009.
So this happened 2009. It's a story we're all familiar with, and the movie, which doesn't, you can't make a movie out of it, but the movie certainly knows that. The movie knows that we're all going into this remembering it like it was yesterday. And unfortunately, that means the movie's not paced very well. It doesn't really do much in terms of any kind of character development, because it fully rests on the fact that you already know the development going into the movie, which is kind of detrimental to the film. In the first 15 minutes of the movie, we start out with a dream sequence in which the plane crashes. We then go to all kinds of events after this has taken place, after the landing. Right. We go to a meeting with the people who are investigating the landing, and then it jumps back and forth, and a couple of times we get 2 scenes when Sully was younger, but that's about
flashback
it.
Sequences, and it's not, and they don't really. There's a short flashback sequence to him as a kid when he first started flying that adds nothing.
No.
The other flashback sequence is adds a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't know what year it is, but he's flying a fighter jet and he's having problems, and he safely lands that. So I mean that flashback sequence I could see maybe as kind of a setup to say, oh, he's been here before, he's done that. That one, although unnecessary because he keeps repeating that he's had 42 years flight experience,
Yeah.
I can at least see where that flashback ties in. The other one, I mean, it doesn't jump back for any length of time. It just jumps back to that one little snippet of him flying, and then that's it. It doesn't give any background of why he became a pilot.
No.
It just happened. He's just there he's there in an old crop duster.
If this maybe told a more linear story, like, you know, even if you had to spice things up for dramatic effect, if this told a much more linear storyline, you know, we could have seen this guy's upbringing. The only scenes he has in this movie with his wife are all over the phone. There's not a single time when the two of them are on camera together at all. They're just over the phone. And then when it finally gets to showing the landing, it almost turns into a disaster film because it's starting to show some backstory, some random backstory of some of the passengers for a few minutes, which is gives a little bit of a whiplash because suddenly we're focused on some other people. But at the same time, it's like, wow, these people actually have more character development than our main character.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's... Well, and it's just... He pick and choose. It wasn't like it was these people were tied through any rest. He's like, oh, well, this sounds like a good story. Let's throw it in as filler. And this sounds like a good story. Let's throw it in filler.
Yeah,
like there was a father, son, and his cousin that were heading to one of the golf courses. Because I think, I want to say, was it Carolina they were heading to?
I think so, yeah. Charlotte.
Charlotte, yeah. So it'd be North Carolina. For a golf trip. And that shows them, and it keeps it like it uses that to then focus in on certain passengers while completely ignoring the rest of them. It's just a way of focusing in on specific passengers,
like a disaster movie.
Yeah,
like a disaster movie does. We're kind of just focused on a few people here.
But instead of like making it their survival, it's more of a, now we can focus in on this because that's going to give us another 2 extra minutes of footage that we can use.
Yeah.
It's not for any specific purpose except to pad this film.
Dude, you're not kidding.
And it's only an hour and a half.
This movie is, it's 90 minutes, 95 minutes, something like that. And it's amazing how they pad this film. Like, multiple dream sequences, multiple sequences of him jogging. They really have to sort of force an antagonist with Mike O'Malley.
With the NTSB, yeah, they do. We have nobody to go against him, so let's make this routine NTSB investigation into this harrowing event where they're like, no, you couldn't have done. You could have easily landed, and then it has to. They'd be like, oh, but you didn't involve this factor and this factor.
And a lot of them that are on that board, like Anna Gunn, are sort of like, we know you did the right thing. We're kind of just doing our job here. Exactly. But who knows? Maybe this really happened. But like, they have the character, the Mike O'Malley's character, who like, it's like, yeah, he's doing his job, but he's being like a real dick about it.
He's like out to get Sully. Like,
yeah.
He's like, no, I don't believe that you couldn't have done this. There's got to be some other explanation for this. And
then it's padded more by showing us not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 flight simulations in their entirety. They just show it to us one after the other. And then when they're listening to the audio from the cockpit, it just goes ahead and just shows us the scene again.
Yeah. They show it 3 different times.
Yeah, and
2 of the times are almost the exact same.
Yeah,
they just reuse the footage.
Minor differences.
Yeah. Just the audio is different. They go into more in depth on the audio when they're listening to the flight recorder as opposed to when we see it the first time when when it's just going down, and then it cuts back between them and the air traffic controller.
And then it turns out they were in the right. Like, so Mike O'Malley is like, well, okay, guess we're done here. And then the movie's over.
Yeah. You know, and I understand that they want to try and get a feature-length runtime, but honestly, you could have seen the crash one time, and that's when they were investing, right when they were in the hearing. That was the only time you probably needed to see the entirety of the crash.
Yeah, because this movie's just randomly edited.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, it jumps so much.
oh, when he goes into Michael Rappaport's bar, and then it does a flashback showing the landing, and it goes on so long, I forgot this was even a flashback.
All right.
So when it cut to him back in Michael Rappaport's place, I'm like, oh, right, that's how we got here.
Yeah, it is...
It's frustrating because, like, you could have made a better movie out of this. This isn't a situation like, well, they just gave us what they could. Like, no, you really could have shown a lot of what was going on in the months afterwards with him on, like, his celebrity status and everything. And again, like I said, even devoting like a half hour at the beginning of the film to this guy's backstory, even if you have to punch stuff up for dramatic effect, we know Hollywood doesn't have a problem doing that.
For an hour-and-a-half movie to jump back and forth as much as it does, it just becomes madcap. I mean, I don't even know, like, there are longer movies that do edits jump back and forth that don't get as madcap as this.
No, you're right. And, like, there's parts where there's a part when they're on Letterman, and it's the footage of, like, Letterman interviewing the crew and everything, but, like, it's like green screen, and they're like,
it's like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, it totally is.
Like when Forrest Gump is meeting all the various presidents, where they splice him in. It's a lot better done now because it's 20 plus years later.
It still looks totally fake though. It looks like he's just hologrammed onto the Late Show set.
But,
and that's and you know that, like, if, like, the only reason it's like this is because Letterman retired. Because I've seen back when Letterman was still a show, like, Letterman would still reenact as it, like, Man on the Moon.
Yeah,
it's like
they brought Katie Couric.
Yeah, they bring Katie Couric into it.
It's clear you can see that this is Katie Couric from now as opposed to Katie Couric from 7 years ago. And it's just like,
will he be remembered as a hero or a monster?
And that's the other thing that bothers me about this whole thing. I understand that there was customary investigation, and it may even have gotten a little heated, but there is no one on this planet that can sit there and look at him and go, oh, that dude was just, fucked everything up. That man saved 155 people. There is no way to say that indifferently. There's no way around it. He saved those people. Did he do a dangerous maneuver into landing? Yes, of course he did. He did what he had to do. But he did it with such finesse and such grace that he got everyone off of that plane.
He did, man.
With minor injuries, and the man is a hero.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, totally. And, like, hell, even when you listen to, like, the audio from the cockpit, he's just calm and cool as hell. He's like, yeah, we're gonna land in the Hudson. It's like, well, it's Tuesday.
Well, there's a scene when he's in the doctor's office, or he's the hospital after the aftermath, and his pulse is 110. I don't know many people that after that, whose pulse, he's like, well, my resting rate's around like 50 or 60. It's like, dude, everybody else's pulse rate would probably be in the 140s, 150s after that. The fact that you're at like 110 is pretty remarkable, because that's like a light jog for some people. Yeah,
like my pulse is like in the 150s on a good flight. Yeah, they kind of tried turning this into like Flight, like
with the Denzel one,
which is a better movie than this. But I mean, this, because the story is so, it's an uplifting story. Like, my God, the guy is a fucking hero. So it's like, It's not a bad film. Like, there's parts of it that are good. The crash scene, the first time we see it, because it shows it to us more than once. Yeah. The crash scene, it is suspenseful.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
No, it is.
It's tense. It's harrowing. You know, even knowing the outcome, it's still like, it's it's suspenseful.
Yeah. And the acting is solid. Tom, I mean, this is a role Tom Hanks probably could have played in his sleep, but
yeah, I think we can all agree that now at this point, Tom Hanks is probably one of the greatest actors, if not the greatest actor of this generation. This is another. I'm going to phone it in a little bit, but my phoning in is 10 times better than everything else you see, and he has his little wet-eyed Tom Hanks Oscar cry, because that's what I'm starting to call them now. They're his Oscar cries. Like, it happened in fucking Captain Phillips too. Right at the end of the movie where it starts breaking down, I'm like, there's his Oscar pitch.
Is it gonna happen in Inferno though?
That's not an Oscar movie. Ron Howard's like, up the cheese. Let's drama.
Right, yeah. Last year, Ron Howard was like, oh, let's maybe, like, gun this out for Oscars, but it was in the heart of the sea, or the heart of the ocean, whatever that was called.
Oh, yeah.
And that didn't do very well, so, like, yeah, all right, let's make Inferno.
Let's make another Langdon movie. Why not?
Sure, why not?
Let's fuck up another one of those books.
Like, the co-pilot is Aaron Eckhart, who, as he gets older, seems to keep slowly turning into Jim Varney.
Know what I mean, Vern? I could see that a little bit, yeah. Just don't die of cancer. Please don't. We miss you, Jim.
Well, at least not until Aaron Eckhart does I Frankenstein Saves Christmas.
Oh my god.
I hope that's a thing. Please. Oh man. I would say, like, the movie the movie totally has an audience, and I'm sure we saw it with that audience. Like, the audience that, like, they want to see just an uplifting story. They want to see a story of heroics and everything, and just kind of be in and out in about 95 minutes. This movie will work for that audience.
For the crowd who can only spare an hour and a half because then their diaper fills up.
Oh, God.
This is the perfect movie for them. Yes.
So if you have IBS...
if you're prone to fits of ADD... if your Depends just don't work that great... I mean, this is it's not a bad film.
No.
Every part of this movie is well done. It just should be linear. It should not be a boom, 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 boom as much as it... Like, you could get away with that with a couple things flashback-wise, but this is constantly jumping back and forth with a flashback. It just doesn't... It doesn't add any coherence to the movie whatsoever. No,
totally. Because the script doesn't have enough story.
No.
At all.
No, I mean, we're talking... They showed at the end, it was... I mean, you're talking a grand total of maybe 40 minutes from the time they had engine trouble to the time they landed to the time they got everybody off. Mm-hmm. They said once everybody got in the water, they said it took rescue crews 24 minutes to get everybody off of the plane and to safety. And to me, you're right. There's not a lot of story there, and it's... Everybody knows it. It was broadcast. It was during the 24-hour news cycle, so it was constantly barraged at us. And good, Yeah. I would also question the timing of the release of this movie. 3 days before the 15th anniversary of 9/11?
I didn't even think about that.
I'm just like, and they throw that subtle jab in there.
They do mention 9/11.
They said... Well, and twice you see planes crashing into buildings.
A lot of crashing into the city in this movie.
What is going on?
No. Honestly, it's a good thing this movie isn't terrible, because, a like an internet review of this movie would show the first part of it where the plane crashes into the city and then just cut to ending credits. Like that would be one joke in a review like that.
But like in one scene when they're back at when they're safety, they're in the hotel, they're coming down off this high. One of their union guys was like, "It's nice to see some good headlines in New York about planes." Mm-hmm. And I was just like, "No, you fucking did not."
Did you hear the person in the audience who was like, "Oh."
What did you really? God damn it!
So much for Never Forget.
Oh my god!
You're right. I was thinking that during the movie. There is a lot of crashing in New York City in this movie.
And to release it I understand, but it seems so cheap to release this 3 days before 9/11.
We need an uplifting plane story to put out in theaters. Like, well, they're not gonna re-release Final Destination on the anniversary.
Well, you can what United was it United 93? Release that or something. I don't fucking know, man. If you're gonna go that route, go full bore. Just fucking show it.
No. Re-release Collateral Damage. And Big Trouble.
Oh Jesus! I'm still waiting. Are they gonna have like 6 hours of news coverage again, like they did when it was the 10-year, where CNN just shows the entire thing in its entirety from start to finish? Because I don't know that I can handle that.
So some guy who's high turns on the TV like, "Holy shit, they hit us again!
Right?
It happened again! No!
Like,
I'm so baked."
That's what bothered me about that whole thing. It's like I watched this as it happened, as many people did. That is not an image I'm ever going to get out of my head, so I don't need to see it again.
I was watching that and then had to haul ass to the radio station because I was still working in radio at the time because, shock of all shocks, they needed all employees on hand.
Right. We're going to need to have everybody here so we can...
What? Why? I'm watching TV. And then I had to get gas on the way there, and gas was freaking... They jumped that shit up. Like,
yes, they did.
And so it was like pandemonium and lines outside the gas station.
Yeah, I was back in the good old days when gas was like $1.25.
Yeah. And they jumped it up, which now thinking back, like,
right.
when it jumped up to like, what was it, like $1.90 something?
Yeah, it was close to $2, but not quite there.
In 2001, that was a big jump.
Yeah, it was. Shit, man. Now we're just like whatever. But no, I just started college.
I was in college.
Yeah.
I was in a class when it was going on, and then in between classes is when because I was in before all that started, I was in a class, and the class was 90 minutes, and then when I got out is when I was overhearing everyone talking about it, and it was on the TVs there, and I had another class to get to. So the other class I got to was like an English course, I think, and the teacher was like, "Well, this is what's going on," and he was drawing diagrams on the board for like a half an hour, and then he goes, "So, well, anyway, on with our lesson plan." Why am I even here?
Because I feel like it was a Tuesday, because I wasn't in class because Tuesdays were my day off. So I was late to it. Mm-hmm. My mom actually called me, and I woke up, because she was working for our Illinois State Police, and she's like, "Hey, wake up. I think we're at war." And of course...
You're like, what'd the neighbor do now?
Well, an 18-year-old kid, I'm like, what? She's like, turn on the TV. And I turned on the TV, and I shit you not, literally 10 seconds later is when the first tower fell. I was like, oh my God. So then my mom they shut government down. They said, if you are not required personnel, you are to go home immediately, because we didn't know what the fuck was going on. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what was going to get hit. And I'm like sitting there going, I'm like, it's Illinois. Nobody's going to hit Springfield, Illinois.
Cold Stone, no!
Right. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they don't give a flying fuck about the Illinois State Police. But
Next stop, take out Lincoln's home.
they didn't know, so they were like, just get everybody. And I remember driving downtown, which during a weekday in Springfield, downtown is completely packed because downtown is the center of government.
Yeah.
And so we have thousands upon thousands of state workers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always guaranteed to see state workers walking around because in case they have to go to different buildings. There was no one. It was ghost town. It was the eeriest thing I think I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, like
I don't think I've ever seen at any hour of the day the downtown just that deserted. Usually there's always somebody, but there was like nobody. And it just
I
was
do
eerie
if
as
I'm
shit.
stumbling home drunk at like 4 in the morning.
But it's even 4 in the morning though. You have other drunks.
That's true.
There was
my posse.
almost nobody. I could count it on one hand the number of people I saw downtown.
I didn't hit downtown. Like I said, I had to haul ass to the radio station where honestly, like, we all needed to be there, but it was easy enough. We just had to sit there and monitor the switchboard because we had to raise up the CBS feed over the air. So that's just what all the stations were playing. Well, this has been the 9/11 comedy hour with Brandon
Holy
Irving.
shit. So, yeah, this I don't know. Like, this is, again, it's not a bad film. It just,
It's a rental.
yeah, it to me it's the same thing that happened with Captain Phillips. The storyline is compelling, the characters compelling, the movie not so much. You know, it's and a lot of this stuff anymore, like the stuff you see, if it's on a 24-hour news cycle, it's hard to bring something to the story that changes the dimensions of it, that
Or at
makes
least-
it interesting, where you're like, oh, okay.
Well, at least try. Like,
Right.
this movie didn't really even try.
No.
It pretty much gave us a lot of what we've seen and heard about, and really nothing more than that. There's not
Right.
much development in this film. It kind of really just is what it is. It deserves a much better movie than this, but like, you know, it is well acted. It's shot
Yes.
well. The crash scene is suspenseful, so it's. I'd at least say it's a rental.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's something that you probably should never watch, but I just don't, it just, well, especially like, if it's based on his memoirs, does he do nothing but talk about the crash? I really doubt it.
He's
I
got
don't
to
even
talk
think
about more than
gotta
just
talk about-
90 minutes worth of film.
you could have added something about him to this movie that added, like you were saying, something to add dimension to this character as opposed to just focusing on this flight. Because that's what he even says it in the movie. He's like, you know, I've flown for over 42 years. I've flown 1 million passengers safely, but I'm going to be judged on 208 seconds. Well, then why did you make your movie completely only about those 208 seconds? There's no other, aside from those two little flashback sequences that really do not a whole lot. There's really no intimation of this character. You don't get to know this character aside from what he did
You
during
get to
this.
know him way more just by watching him in interviews. Any interview he's ever given, he's a charming dude.
Yeah.
Like any interview he's ever given, you'll know way more about him than this movie.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, it seems like this movie should have been called like Flight 1549 as opposed to Sully, because when you say Sully, you make me think that, okay, this is going to be about his character. It's not. It's just about his Flight 1549. That's what it is.
It should be called Hanks on a Plane. That's it.
I'd have been good with Hanks on a plane.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Hanks on a Plane. Alright. So let's see. Tomorrow I've got the amazing double feature of The Wildlife and When the Bow Breaks, which I'm very, very, very excited about.
The cradle will fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And down will come baby. Cradle and all, or whatever it is.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, shit.